Happy Saturday. Happy 110 fucking degrees in Las Vegas, Nevada. Saturday. The time of year I dread living in the desert is here, right in the middle of the summertime, a few days away from 4th of July. The holiday, if there's a top 10 holiday that I hate, it is the 4th of July. Not the spirit of it, celebrating the nation's birthday, that's fine. The spirit of the holiday, no issues with it. The festivities of 4th of July, I hate. I think it's insane. As a little kid, I thought it was insane. As I've grown older, it's gotten even more and more insane. And what has evolved, unfortunately, is the armament called fireworks that everybody seems to be just lazily, flying around, going out to the Indian reservations, coming back with stuff that I recognize from the Army. When you look at what's in some of these fireworks, and I know what's in ordnance in the Army because that's what I did, there's a couple of grains of difference sometimes. So the thing that I went to school and trained on with ordnance disposal, 55 Bravo, 89 Bravo, EOD, we're now just packaging it up and saying, happy holiday, hope you make it out alive, hope you make it out with your fingers. It scares the dogs. Dogs are going crazy throughout the neighborhood. All my fellow combat vets, because it ain't the old days when a sparkler or a firecracker made a sound and everybody ate barbecue. The stuff that they're doing now is loud. It sounds like gunshots. If your fireworks shake the ground, they ain't fireworks no more. That's ordnance. It's not a firecracker if I can feel it. That's a grenade. Your entertainment should not have concussive force that I feel. So have a safe and happy 4th of July. I will be so, and of course it's Vegas. So July 6th, 7th, and 8th, they'll be blowing this stuff up because, hey, they paid for it. They got to use it. 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, boy. 4th of July. It's not quite up there with the misery of daylight savings because I'm not having anything stolen from me, but it's just one of those days I just want to come and go. All right, we're going to say hi to the chat. This is going to be a very, 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 very abbreviated Saturday overnighter. We're going to be done by 11 because I got some stuff I got to do afterward. I'm dead tired. My brain has been boiling in this heat, going in and out of it. And it's been a long, eventful week. We had our Indiana Jones promotion that happened. Now we have the Mission Impossible one that's going to be happening. So stay tuned for all of our social media. You locals, I will be sending you to see Ethan Hunt jump out of planes and off of motorcycles again. So also, just a reminder, this will be the last simulcasted Saturday Night Live overnight show. Starting next week, this show will air exclusively on our YouTube network, which is, you see right down below me, youtube.com/@the-Sci-Fi Center. No, I am not leaving the Poindexter Lounge. No, this doesn't mean we're going to not be broadcasting stuff. This particular show is going to be, the format of it is going to be adjusted so that it fits what we do at the Sci-Fi Center pretty much exclusively. Same kind of stuff, but a little bit more, merchandise oriented. And we need to see, now that our channel has gotten to a certain state, we need to see what's working away from the Poindexter Lounge. And right now we have no indication because all of our stuff is simulcast. So I need at least one anchor show to find out where we need to build and how we need to get it to where we needed to go. The goal for the YouTube channel is to be an extension of our storefront. So I have to, at some point, get it to where I needed to go. And I need to know what we are doing, in isolation as a Sci-Fi Center versus what we do in tandem with the with Poindexter Sound. But we got plenty of stuff. The Midnight Expresses will still be on there. We'll still be talking wrestling. Our Star Trek watch-alongs, our Star Trek shows will all be there. And, as Enoch makes his return, we're going to, obviously slide into whatever space he's not operating. So just remember, next Saturday, go ahead. And if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do it right now. Like and subscribe both to the Poindexter Lounge. This show and youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center. You can also go to the sci-fi-center.com and follow us on all of our social media there. All right, before I bring in my wingman, I am going to say hi to the chat. Going to bed early on a Saturday night, Vince. Come on, man. We're not 90. We just went over why I will not be happy with 4th of July, but hey, I will endure the 4th of July just for you, Hal. Also, chat room, let me know. We had some issues with the sound on Star Trek yesterday. I already sound like the Cookie Monster, but I don't want to sound like a distant Cookie Monster. So let me know in the chat if I'm coming through nice and clear. How you doing, Chappie? What's going on, Larry? All right, Mawab, what's going on? I got your message. Okay, Rational Skeptic. I'm sorry, but David Cornsweet, we'll hit on this towards the end of the show with the castings of Superman Legacy. I'm sorry, but David Cornsweet looks a lot like Cavill. If that'll hurt the film or help it, I don't think it'll either way. I think the general fans who don't get into the weeds as much as we do online he looks enough like Henry Cavill to where the transition might be easy. They may not even ask. Everybody else will know, but you know what? If you got that outer fringe that knows what's going on, that knows there's a Superman movie, but doesn't know how Cavill was done dirty and the entire mess that has been DC and is sort of continued to be DC. Hey, looks like Cavill, good enough for me. Here's my money. Might help it. All right. It was 100 degrees with humidity today, 115 about 3 days ago. Yeah, and you know what? When I was overseas, when we were in the desert that was off the ocean, you had 126, 127 with the humidity. Wow, you want to see grown men pass out? That is how you do it. We could not keep the water in our system. We were sticking. I was combat lifesaver. We were sticking guys with IVs because we were losing water so quickly. We had the camelbacks and everything on us, and we were constantly having to fill those. It was just the humidity was as bad as the heat. But like I said, I'm kind of sick of the dry heat too. 110 today, dry heat. I boil or I fry. Pick my poison. Honestly, he looks like Superman. So did Cavill. I don't get the comparison between. They look a lot like each other. But in all fairness, and people have made this point before, and it's true, the actors that are picked to play Superman generally look like the traditional Superman that's in the book, the square-jawed, deep eyes type of guy. I mean, so Christopher, if you look at everybody who's played Superman, for the most part, especially for their era, they look at like even George Reeves. George Reeves, look at the comics. I mean, he's a prototypical Superman, depending on what area you're from. So I'm not surprised that the guy looks like. I mean, it's weird that he looks as much like Cavill as he does, but that's fine with me. I don't think that's going to hurt it at all. These castings and these in the story, the actual things that go on with the movie itself aren't going to be what hurts Superman Legacy. The mess that has gone on for the last 7 years, and that will lead into Superman and how things were handled, how people were handled, the overall confusion of what's going on. Those are the type of things that they need to worry about. The casting is fine. The script will probably be fine. The movie will probably be fine. But they've messed things up so bad that, like I said, a lot of these people are probably going to watch Gods and Monsters Chapter 1 from the safety of their own home. And I can completely understand that. I can completely understand that, the first round of DC movies will probably be the one that pays the price for the decision-making that has gone on since 2013 and some of the decision-making that have opened this regime. But the good news about that is, even if they're going to take a hit at the box office, once people see it on HBO Max or Max, they will come around the second time around. They'll go and see the movie, just like Dune. Dune made decent money, but most of the people who probably saw Dune didn't see it in the theaters. They saw it on HBO Max, which was HBO Max at the time. But you don't release it on HBO Max like day and day, and those people liked what they saw. I don't know anyone who was a brand new Dune fan that was disappointed with the movie that they saw on HBO Max. Most of them came to me and said, "Damn, I wish I'd seen this in the theaters." guess what? This fall or this December, what, November, whatever, they're going to get that chance. And I think that's going to be the same way with Superman Legacy. I don't think a lot of people are going to tune in to James Gunn's first round of movies. They're going to see them on Max. They're going to love them there. And then the sequels are what's going to spike it up. And then on demand and all that stuff. But it's going to take some time. And like I said, if the stuff suits and the corporate engine are patient, then we'll get a successful project. If they flinch, then we won't. It's that simple. All right, so we're going to try to get through. They should have done a Final Crisis. Yeah, they should have. There's a lot of stuff that they should have done. I went into great detail last week with how they should have done this, but they chose their path. And like I said, there's going to be a price to be paid. Ultimately, I think they'll break through. But like I said, there's a lot of money, a lot of films that have lost money, some films that are going to lose even more money. I think all that loss could have been avoided. That's real money they lost. That's real 1.2 billion that they lost in advertising on top of movies that are going to lose money. You pretty much doomed Blue Beetle, Aquaman. You already had The Flash. And so I think there was a better path. I won't go into that this week because we actually dedicated part of the show to it last week, and it's still up on YouTube. But yeah, there were ways they could have greased their skids and made the transition a lot less costly. But there you go. All right. Today was tough. We missed a lot of news. We went to a funeral for the mother of one of my best friends. I haven't had to go to a funeral as an adult. Last time was I was little, but I don't think they get any easier. I've been to one as a kid and as an adult. I've also been to military funerals, and I never want to. I never want to go through that again. Military funerals, when they do all the ceremonial stuff, and it's like, and the family is there, and you knew the person. Yeah, it's funeral. I don't think there is such thing as an easier funeral. I don't think they get easier as you get older. I actually think they get harder. It just sucks. Growing up in Vegas, so many of the locals used to use illegal fireworks that blow up like crazy. Oh, yes. And and my neighborhood is famous for that shit. All right, so I am going to try to go through. All right, so I sound good. All right, thanks, Larry. I just want to make sure because I just wasn't happy with the last one. Hey, William, Lakers made some good free agent signings. Yes, the main thing that the Lakers did is they kept the core team together, and I think that had they been on even footing, I think Denver is a different story. 26 games is not enough to get the feet under you. Plus, your main guys were worn down and they're being surgically repaired. So, the most important thing for me with the Lakers was to keep the core group together and give them time playing together. That's the biggest free agent they could have gotten. I'm going to talk about Secret Invasion too. I'm going to be skipping around the chat, so I'm not going to get a chance to answer all the chats because I'm running sort of solo when it comes to operations today. It was my first experience when I saw Showgirls at the theater. That was a horrible movie. I only went it because some of the actors and actresses in it I'd been watching. Let's see. Yeah, there's a link to the channel. It's like I said, it's under my name as well. But yeah, I'm trying to get that going to where, like I said, I'm a tourist city, and when they Google me, YouTube and Google will go hand in hand as far as how that works. And a lot of people who are going to come to the store will look at Google and look at our YouTube page before they even leave their home state. To just lay out the groundwork of what they want to do once they get down here. And we're getting a lot of people, with a lot of questions and stuff through that site. So now we want to kind of engineer it so that it's more like my storefront than anything else. First two episodes of Secret Invasion, I'll go ahead and get with that now simply because let me go ahead and bring in Brad too before I forget that he's there. From screenrat.com, Brad Curran. How are you doing, Brad?
Hey, William, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Have you had a chance to watch Secret Invasion?
No, I have not gotten on Secret Invasion yet. When it comes to the Marvel Disney Plus shows, I've been was really generally post Endgame. I've been kind of a lot more selective with my Marvel stuff, and that's really the Disney Plus shows are really kind of particularly sort of borne the brunt of that. So I haven't gotten a Secret Invasion yet.
By the way, before I say one more syllable, tonight's show is brought to you by you know who and you know what. So I'm a little bit light today. I have chicken strips with Parmesan. I'm not as hungry as I usually am on this night. A lot of it's because I've been drinking a ton of water too, so I don't like burst into flames. But yeah, Parmesan chicken strips and their oregano fries. Oh my goodness! But I am the same way. I think what Marvel is going through right now is the fact that there are no heavy hitters in their lineup that distract you away from a lot of what was mediocrity to begin with. There's always been mediocre Marvel, even going back to Phase 1. It's just that you didn't notice it because for every Captain Marvel, there was an Avengers Endgame. For every Avengers 2012, or for every Thor, there was a Avengers Infinity War. I mean, it was just there was the heavy hitters and the high quality stuff was there. Once Infinity Saga ran its course, you were just it was laid bare. Now you got to see that there was a lot of mid grade stuff there. But Secret Invasion is not one of those.
I've heard pretty good things about it from a lot of people I know have seen it.
I am loving Secret Invasion. I love spy movies. I love the whole cloak and dagger thing. I love Samuel L. Jackson. All the actors that they've gotten for this one, I've seen them in other things. I've loved them in there. It's an ensemble cast, and it's just great. It reminds me of an old Cold War movie. And
let me ask you this, actually, before I go any further, what you're saying in the intro about kind of your warm feelings towards the 4th of July, with the fireworks. Yeah, that's happened for me too. I mean, like just earlier tonight, people were setting off fireworks. I mean, they're really. I feel like it's kind of like a similar trajectory that kind of getting ready for Christmas is taken, where it's like, I mean, you go to the mall now, it's like they're getting stuff out by August at the end. But
yeah, the 12-foot skeletons are there for Halloween. They're just waiting to come out.
Pretty much, yeah. But what we were saying about Secret Invasion, the one thing I've been kind of wondering is because. I was not a fan of Captain Marvel at all, but and part of that was I felt like the Skrulls. The makeup is pretty great on the Skrulls. Don't get me wrong, but the Skrulls, I felt like it's just they really lost a lot of their menace and a lot of the a lot of what makes them really great is and that's what I'm wondering is like is that kind of reintegrated into their role on Secret Invasion
in a very very real way. In a very real world way, because if you watch Secret Invasion, or if you ever picked up the comic, and I got it up here, if you ever pick up the comic, Secret Invasion, old or new. Now, this is Secret Invasion now. This is Secret Invasion, the current one. It's closer to the show, it's closer to the MCU, it is now. But the other Secret Invasion, it's the white Nick Fury, for one. And it was a little different because the intrigue that Secret Invasion was always trying to put forward, they would tell the story out of sequence. So there were certain people that were Skrulls that had been Skrulls for years.
Okay.
Like, and then when they died, that's when you realize that person was a Skrull. And then like Spider-Woman, you realize that she'd been replaced by a Skrull, and she'd been in that position for years. And you realize how deeply they were embedded in our society. Here, it's a little bit of different premise, but it's along the same lines. Whereas that was more like an outright alien invasion type of thing, which they told you in the comic book. This one is alien invasion, but it's more cloak and dagger. It's more political intrigue. It's more spy.
I've gotten the sense of that from a lot of the marketing that it is, kind of, especially with Nick Fury being such a pivotal character to it, that it is really kind of playing up, the spy, undercover agent kind of angle to it.
Yeah. Also, if you ever get a chance, and I mentioned this before, there's a series that came out in 1988 called Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D. They were dealing with life model decoys, which is what they use for body doubles and stuff like that. But it's the way Fury is on the run here. I have to believe that they were inspired by that. It's Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D. It was. I got to believe it was inspired by that. So. Right.
And one thing I'm really I really am hoping with the Secret Invasion too is that if you look at kind of the roles that Nick Fury has had to play throughout the MCU so far, I mean, when he's been director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Avengers and things like that, where that's kind of been very true to his sort of typical role for it. But then you see him, a lot of his roles and other things, and you look back on a lot of it, it's like a lot of it feels really hit and miss. And again, to come down on Captain Marvel again, that's Captain Marvel, I think, massively dropped the ball with Nick Fury. One area in particular with how he gets his his little eye patch look, that was not handled well. But
he didn't even wear the eye patch in this one. It's hilarious. All right, with Cavill, I think it's because he's tethered to a film that's 10 years old. There are films out there with stars that are tethered that are way older than that. So I don't know.
Well, people can't stop talking about 10 years later. And actually, to kind of go off of that, I mean, because you were talking about the Superman Legacy casting news that we got this week, and you Mr. David Cornsweat, you were mentioning. This is a point I was thinking about a little bit with him, because the point has been raised that he does bear a rather noticeable resemblance to Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
And I mean, this might be me reading too much into things or getting conspiratorial, but with the concept of Elseworlds and multiverses, could that maybe also be an intentional decision that Gunn went with, where it's like,
it's possible. It's possible, because I do think we will get a Kingdom Come at some point, but it'll be way down the line. All right, I think it's because he's tethered to movie 10 years old and 2 sequels that were poorly received. Poorly received by who? See, and here's another subject I'm going to bring up. And it has to do with Indiana Jones' reception and certain movies' receptions that received by people who sit in front of a computer screen all day and pretty much roast movies before they're released. Because poorly received at $871 million, you want to come up with illusions of bullshit that that WB executives had, that it should have made $1 billion. They now understand that was BS. We now know what horseshit expectations are, because we look at what the movies make now.
Also, I mean, of course, with the longevity again that I mentioned before, it's like people can the conversation is just never ending around the 3 Man of Steel, BVS, and ZSJL. It's why William and myself were so maintain this stance of, it's like, great, you're starting this new universe, but when are you going to wrap up your last one?
Yeah, and like I said, at 800s, Man of Steel made $678 million, which I think was the highest grossing Superman movie at that time. BVS made $871 million, so it escalated, it went up. That usually gets you promoted, not fired. But so if poorly received at $871 million, and to be honest with you, I don't care the opinions and the Rotten Tomatoes, those don't keep the lights on. You see the results now of movies not making money. So the money was the priority. I don't care if you shat in your diapers and told me that he was too dark, he was too brooding. $871 million is $871 million. They would give their left arm right now with what the Flash is going to bring in to have, if that was poorly received, then they need some more poorly received movies. Because the last, Black Adam, at a $260 million production budget, didn't make anything. The Flash is going to lose some money. They got Blue Beetle that's about to get lined up for a loss. And you got Aquaman who's probably going to have the same fate.
And then with Blue Beetle specifically, with Gunn having designated that as kind of like as this is the first character in my universe, that's something I'm really kind of curious, like, okay, how much does the performance on that, because again, I in a lot of ways, we both have said these 4 movies this year, because of the announcement of the new direction, these 4 movies really have been set up to fail in a lot of ways. So with Blue Beetle, whatever impact that might have on that, how does that impact what Gunn is going to do?
Yeah, you're in business to make money. That 870, they took in that 871 million. Right now, if they could switch out the results of what they are doing now and what they had then, they would do it in a heartbeat. Now, I think Gunn just wants to eliminate baggage that is outside modern attention spans. But here's the thing: that doesn't work that way. It's not a magic show. It's not Men in Black where they hold up that little pin device and you just forget everything that's going on. People are watching you while you're doing this, and that's the problem. But by trying to eliminate that baggage, you're kind of creating more. It's like,
and also this is where I kind of break out, the Lucius Fox gif, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't. Thanks for the input, Travis. But there seems to be this myth that everybody hated BBS. Everybody hated Man of Steel. I'm like I said, I didn't. Most people I know didn't.
And again, this is a point I would make too, is that to illustrate kind of what we've been saying, is that, again, look at what we're talking about here. We're starting off on the Superman Legacy casting, the Plants for Guns universe, and look at how quickly it just drifts back to, again, Cavill, Snyder, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
And it's not a matter of us being predisposed to being fans of his work. It's a matter of the impact they've left and the impact of the way they were handled has left.
Yeah. Now they've released movies. Like I said, we've already thrown out. And I'm not going to spend too much time on the Snyder stuff or the James Gunn stuff, because, to be honest with you, we're 760 days away from that even meaning anything to me. Those movies aren't getting until 2020.
And which by the way, to interject real quickly about that, which Gunn earlier tonight on Instagram, somebody asked him what he said. He's not going to be at Comic-Con this year, so that pretty much eliminates DC Studios from having any kind of, which I think was probably the writing was on the wall with that. Although the SAG did with the producers union, they did strike a temporary extension of negotiations talks until July 12th. I think, again, that's just the safest route to take, where it's like you don't know if you can even have like your cast or any kind of like big bells and whistles for the Hall H presentation. So you really kind of have to sit it out this year.
It's going to be great for me because I'm actually going this year.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, and that's why they released it. That's why. Don't let the facts go. Okay, dude. What are your facts? What are your facts, and do you even know what a good story is? Where did you pull that up from? Like I said, sitting behind a keyboard and telling someone on the screen what their facts are is subjective. I could say the same thing about someone else's opinion and fact. So we could be chasing our tails, or we can move on. If you're referring to what we were talking about, BBS, I know how to count up to 871 million. That's a fact. I know that movie didn't lose money. I know Man of Steel didn't lose money. That's a fact. Is that what you're referring to? Because math is not up for a debate. Math is not up for opinion. I know that The Flash is going to lose money. I know that Black Adam lost money. I know that Blue Beetle's probably going to come close to losing money. And when that happens, those are facts.
And actually, William, to kind of go off of that, because I'm sure you'll probably get a little bit into Indiana Jones here pretty soon, but a lot of the tracking for that is going to come out. It's like, and it had this I found really interesting, because of course we've had the opening day, we're in the midst of opening weekend. It's a little bit more of an elongated opening weekend with it being 4th of July, obviously, but it's opening day. They roll the Thursday night previews in those, and it had the exact same opening day numbers as The Flash did. And the real kicker for me is the fact that looking at kind of the production information they put out on it's like Indy's budget, something like $295. I have no idea how you make an Indiana Jones movie that's at least $60 million more expensive than The Flash, but be that as it may,
your star power in there probably.
I was thinking maybe some of the de-aging, that from some of the early, kind of indie stuff, and that might have played a factor too. But also,
well, how much is Harrison Ford making?
Yeah, that's true. But to kind of go back to that, there's been also a lot of talk about how packed this summer, and particularly this June, has been, coupled with we're just not returning to the pre-COVID numbers in terms of blockbuster earnings. And looking back on, let's look at our last pre-COVID year, 2019. You look at the top 10 that year, you had all but one of the top 10 that year clear $1 billion. Post-COVID, we've had what I think all told like 4 or 5 like hit $1 billion altogether, and that's not in any given year. So there is also, I think, conversation whether we're talking about DC, The Flash, Indiana Jones, whatever it may be, and streaming also, as you were mentioning, is there more nuance to this in terms of we need to not be so quick to label anything quote unquote a failure when really we have to.
Well, we have a culture of people that just sit and do that. That's all they do. Let me answer this question. Listen, there will never, ever in our lifetime be a modern Superman movie that is not divisive. So if you're out there making a Superman movie, you're either a filmmaker or you're a pussy. So you need to come into this, whoever you studio head, producer, whoever you are, you have to have enough common sense to know that there is no such thing as a Superman movie that will be released that will not cause division, especially in the modern era, especially in the last 25, 30 years. That is something you need to get out of the way before you even tackle this. And it's going to be that way 30 years from now. It's going to be that way 50 years from now. And it'll probably get harder as more interpretations of Superman come on. You have people that are never going to let go of the Superman in their head from their childhood. And they want that complete version, their Superman, to be what they want to force that onto whatever storyteller is currently telling it. You will never, ever have another Superman movie that does not cause division. So if you're going to tackle Superman, understand that, or don't tackle Superman. BBS was divisive. Guess what else is going to be divisive? Superman Legacy.
And to add into that, to add into that also, again, with Tyler Hoechlin with all his work as Superman on TV. I mean, it's like I've been pretty well won over by Superman and Lois, but again, it took a little while for him to get there, with his prior, Arrowverse role. So, there's what you're saying there. It's like almost whatever version of Superman you're doing at a given time, just by the nature of the character and the cinematic history, it's like there is an element of him always be a new version of Superman always being kind of an acquired taste.
I've been hearing this for 10 years, and this is not directed at you, Anthony, but I hear this from a lot of people. No, it's not. You know it's a failure? When you lose money. When you spend $1.2 billion on advertising on movies that you're going to lose money on. Because I don't care where I get the bulk of my percentage. On every superhero movie that comes out, Blue Beetle will be the first one that I don't go, or, in the Deadpool movies. But for the most part, I'm there preview night. I'm either there promoting it or I'm there doing preview night. Most everybody I know is going the first weekend. And not everything has that type of rewatchability. But I think the percentages of any movie, to be honest with you, when you sit and do the post-mortem of any movie, no matter whether it's BBS, Indiana Jones, anything, the first person that gets up and says, well, you had this amount of drop from one week to another, that's great. What's my final number? Because guess what that final number goes up against? My investment. If I made an overall investment into this movie, I want to know what, I'm going to judge success on what the 100% of it is, because that's what I got to pay back. My financiers are getting top first dollar. I'm not going to, I can't say something's a failure because it dropped 69% when it made $871 million, when right now I'm struggling just to break a $400 million. There hasn't been a DC. When's the last DC film that's broken $400 million?
I think it was the Batman, and that's not as far as your connected universe. The last in-universe one to clear that was Aquaman.
So almost 6 years ago. And some of these movies that don't make decent money have legs from one week to the another, but they don't have the overall total that I need. If I invested $250 million in the bucks, okay, but if I spend $150 million right on a movie, and my final total is 871, as long as I have my expectations where they were supposed to be, I made a profit. And now I can go to physical media. Now I can go on demand. But I keep hearing the drop, and that's fine. But to me, the total dollar amount, because that's what you owe. That's what you spent. That's your production budget.
The real drop is the years of chaos after the reactionary decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and actually to go off of that, because this is something I've been thinking about too with The Flash, and also what I was saying a minute ago about like post-COVID, theatrical trends. Because The Flash, you were talking about like thinking it's okay, it's got its max date already built in, and I'm with you on that. Don't get me started on the name change either, but that's the thing I'm wondering. Like, what are your thoughts on like when it hits streaming? Do you think that maybe streaming is maybe like the second life it's been waiting for? How do you think it might do on streaming?
I think the majority of people are waiting for it to come on streaming, just like they're going to wait for Blue Beetle to come on streaming, which we're supposed to be. I think the majority of people are going to wait for Aquaman to go to streaming, and I think this is going to carry over. I think the first round of God Monsters, a lot of people are going to just wait for it to go on streaming. DC just doesn't have the credibility right now to have you just whip out your wallet and say, here's my money. This is not to take my money production company right now. I think they'll get there, but it's not going to be anytime soon. And with Max as an alternative, especially with the rate of time that they're putting these movies on streaming, your risk reward is where it is. You're going to risk $120 for a family of four to go to the movie theater, for something that's kind of on shaky ground, or are you just going to wait 30 days or 45 days and watch it when it hits HBO Max or PVOD? So, and like I said, especially when you're competing with other movies out there, some movies are going to get cut out of people's plans completely simply because it's just so expensive right now. There might be two movies that you really want to see. One of them's got to go if you're going to take the family to it because it's expensive to go to the movies. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. But yeah, I did not sign on tonight to talk BVS or Man of Steel or anything else. And I really, to be honest with you, other than us covering, we've already covered it during the week. We covered the casting. There's really nothing more to talk about. The only thing we're going to be doing is talking in circles at this point. It's 700 days away from Superman Legacy hitting my screen. But
as I said a minute ago, it's like the point I raised is like, again, look at the circle we're in where it's like it just drips back to that so constantly. That should tell you something about the impact of of the Snyderverse and this. It's like however much of a headache some people might find it to be to talk about. I mean, it's like that's pretty undeniable because it just drips back there so easily.
How many people are talking about Black Adam these days? How many people are talking about Harley Quinn and then Fantabulous, whatever the hell that was?
I like Black Adam. I will defend Black Adam.
Yeah, I know it's fun, and these aren't bad movies all around. How many people are talking about either Shazam?
Yeah,
I mean, they talk about the Batman because Batman's one of the most cultural icons out there, with or without Matt Reeves' movie. But these things that came out since then have drifted into obscurity, both financially and conversation-wise. I mean, I can't control what people care about and want to bring up. I mean, I do my best to try to answer the questions as they come up here. But like I said last week, I'm done talking about BBS. I'm kind of done. I mean, unless there's a topical relevancy to it, and there's really, I mean, David Cornsmith looking like Henry Cavill. To me, that's not a big enough connection. And like I said, casting announcements, we covered it. Right now I'm thinking about Dune. Right now I'm thinking about Rebel Moon because they're coming up. Right now I'm thinking about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. These are movies that are coming out. These are movies that are done. These are movies that are either in production, finished, or on their way out. And as we get closer to 2025, which may as well be 1,000 years away, given what can happen in 2 years, then that's when we'll start talking about, this stuff. And maybe it'll be a different world, and maybe it'll be accepted. But I mean, I don't think there's anything more for me to cover in regards to the Snyderverse at this point. I made my point. The math has made its point. The only thing that's made it worse now is the math that those movies pulled in versus the math that these current slate of movies are pulling in. You know,
and actually to interject right there, William, because I looked it up as you were speaking. Post COVID, we've had five $1 billion movies. We've had Spider-Man: No Way Home, Top Gun: Maverick, Jurassic World Dominion, Avatar: The Way of Water, and Super Mario Brothers movie, which I did not expect that to be as big as it is, but it did that business. So again, we've had total post-pandemic $5 billion hits versus our last pre-pandemic year, 2019, top 10, all but one cleared $1 billion. So there's definitely a paradigm shift in terms of box office trends, how easily things can hit $1 billion, and the role of streaming, and that all that needs to be weighed in the conversation a lot more than it is.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. Like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and skip these BBS questions because I think I've spent enough time, and then the comparisons, to any movie. Listen, you can't compare any movie, BBS or anything else, to Guardians of the Galaxy box office. I always tell you guys, take the MCU out of the game and just walk into Disney or Fox or whoever and say, here's my pitch for your next big movie. Without the MCU, without Avengers 2012, without Age of Ultron, without any of that, here's my pitch. I want you to give me $150 million to make this movie about a talking raccoon, a talking tree, and a guy with a Walkman. All right. Now, hopefully your boss is going to think you're joking and not relieve you of your duties. Now, you put that into the context of what Marvel had gained as far as momentum and credibility goes, then you put that movie in. And I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but that the kind of money that it would make outside of what the Marvel machine was, is non-existent. You take Captain Marvel and don't place it in right before Endgame, what does that movie make? So they created a situation where a lot of movies benefit from it, good or bad. Some mediocre, like I just said at the beginning of the show. There's a lot of mediocre Marvel movies that benefited from the powerful ones that were done well. And there's a lot of good Marvel movies that, even whether they're good or not, wouldn't have made the money that they made had they been outside of that universe. DC has had the exact opposite. Now they're at the point to where they put in good movies or acceptable movies, and they're still not making money because of the situation that they're in. So the situation, and I always say people are like, well, just make a great movie and everything will be okay. That is bullshit that you smear across a Christmas card to make people feel better about the money they blew. That's what that is. There's a lot of good movies that are getting released these days that ain't making anything. Being a great movie, unfortunately, is probably about 25% of what it needs in order to be successful. Because there's been some really good movies that have tanked at the box office and cost people their jobs, or cost to the fact that those movies didn't get sequels. And exactly. Now we're looking at 2023. What is a failure in 2023? Because in 2016, we as a society, the executives included, were too stupid to know what success was when it was staring them in the face. Now we're looking at that losses that Shazam lost. Spirit of God's lost a lot of money. Spirit of God's lost a lot of money. And The Flash is going to top that. And that's just the actual money that they're not making at the theater. Now you're talking about the ad budget and everything else that collectively these movies are doing. If they could go back in time and take my TARDIS that I got over here, trust me, they're going back to 2016 and cashing in. So sometimes not knowing what success is good. So you know what? We can hope. I doubt it. I actually think it's going to be a great movie. That's going to be one of those movies that loses money. But that if they're right, they stick with it. And the second round of Gods and Monsters is where they're going to reap the benefit of consistency and supporting your damn filmmaker for once. In order for this to be successful, they cannot do. The current management cannot be the pussies that the previous ones were in regards to sticking with their horse. You cannot have James Gunn come out and put an awesome movie out there, it make $400 million, and everybody starts peeing in their pants. You can't do that. He's your guy. Do not make that mistake again. Otherwise, we're going to be here in another 5 years with another DC studio head and some other guy playing Superman. And that's if the audience even has the patience for it at that point. So,
I think at that point they're not going to have the patience for it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's barely patience for it now.
Yeah, they're on a razor's edge. All right, so now when it comes to Indiana Jones, I'm looking at Indiana Jones, and full disclosure, guys, when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, you kind of know how I feel about Rotten Tomatoes, but I'll bring it up here anyway, simply because it's going to be in context to what I'm about to say. All right, so right now, the audience score for Indiana Jones is 89%. The critic score, which unfortunately weighs a lot on whether people go to see a movie, and I think it's weighing nothing, is at 67%. And I'm hearing a lot of people knock this movie. I sent people to it. I'm going tomorrow night, but I have 10 people. But I'm hearing people destroy it. So I sent some people to go see it. And one of them, reviewed it. One of the people we sent to reviewed it, and I'm going to go ahead and let you guys see his review. He's seen it twice, but he pretty much mirrors just about everyone I sent to it. Everybody had fun with it. A lot of the criticisms I'm hearing don't line up with the actual people I sent with the movie. Go see the movie. So it's like I'm wondering. This is going to lead me to a question I'm going to ask after we play this. But here is Cody. He went and, like I said, I sent him to a couple movies. He's my guy on the ground when it comes to it. And here's his review.
Hey guys, this is Cody from the Brock Up side, here to give you my quick thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This is by far my most anticipated movie of the year, and I was definitely really excited to check it out a couple of days ago. But real quick, I want to give a big thank you to the Sci-Fi Center for getting me into an advanced screening Wednesday night. That was super cool, getting to see it a couple nights early, but I thought it was kind of strange though. I was the only one in the crowd wearing appropriate hat wear. What's up with that? Anyways, again, big thank you to the Sci-Fi Center for letting me come onto the show and also getting me into that early screening. If you want to check out my full review, I'll have a link to that somewhere, but otherwise, enjoy the review. And we can't talk about this movie without first discussing Harrison Ford himself. He has always been the core of these movies. Without Harrison Ford, there was just simply no Indiana Jones. And you can really tell how much Harrison Ford truly cares about this character as he's playing him for the last time here. He not only brings the usual Indiana Jones arrogance and badassery to the role, but also a lot of emotion this time around, which I don't think is something a lot of people are going to expect coming into this movie. You know, we're seeing Indy at the end of his career, his marriage is in shambles, and he's just reflecting on his life and all the choices and the various mistakes he's made in the past. And just getting to see my favorite action hero pull himself up by his bootstraps, go on this final adventure with his goddaughter, which maintains the spirit of the original movies, and it's just something that I'm overall grateful we got to see. The opening 20 minutes of the movie is set in 1944 as we see a digitally de-aged Harrison Ford escape a train of Nazis, which has explosions, motorcycle chases, and a humorous undertone that feels straight out of Last Crusade. Those, coupled with John Williams giving one more fantastic score for the franchise, really recaptures the feeling of what an Indiana Jones movie is, some elements which were kinda missing from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, I'm not one of those people that totally writes off Crystal Skull. I have defended it on multiple occasions, but I will admit it is definitely the weakest of the overall series. But I will say this much though. What Kingdom of the Crystal Skull attempted to bring the franchise back in the spirit of it all, Dial of Destiny does way better. This movie's not going to be for everybody. It does feel like it just kind of checks off a lot of boxes of, oh, this is what we need for an Indiana Jones movie, and the final act makes some interesting decisions which either you need to get on board with and enjoy the ride, or don't. And I have seen this movie twice now, and I do think that it was definitely better the second time around, and I think there will be those people who might not know how to really treat a movie like this, because the original trilogy is forever burned into so many of our memories, where it's like, yes, 30 years in these movies, we know what these are supposed to be because we have these movies and we've had them for so long. So when a brand new entry comes along, it takes a bit of an adjustment period if you want to adjust to it, and I think that's totally okay. Dial of Destiny is a movie I am 100% in the positive camp, and it just felt so damn good to see a new Indiana Jones movie.
And he's pretty fair. I sent him to say he's pretty fair. His reviews are not. He's a fanboy, obviously, of Indiana Jones, but he will. I've heard him, driving the nail when it was. So what I'm seeing though, leading up to Indiana Jones, it was like, wow, people were crapping on the movie, and I'm like, I noticed this pattern of, let's just do this because, and then you get Rotten Tomatoes. What I think is a problem is it has an outsized, disproportionate effect on what people see. And I said the same thing about CinemaScore. I told you what I have as much use for CinemaScore as I do a used condom, which is absolutely nothing. How so many of these things that we use and rely on, how much does this ruin the experience of people just spontaneously just going out and seeing a movie that they planned on seeing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Again, especially coming off of talking about BVS there, and it's kind of speaking anecdotally here. I know family or like my folks and other people who have like asked me to, they're going through streaming and like, would you recommend this or this? And a lot of times there's been hesitance because they see the Rotten Tomatoes score right next to it. So, there's a lot of influence to that I think has really kind of overtaken a lot of the conversation in a less than positive way. It's not that like Rotten Tomatoes, CinemaScore, those things aren't bad ideas on paper, but I feel like it's within the last, particularly last 7-8 years, we're kind of treating a lot of that as it's almost like gospel at this point. It's like, oh, it spits out a number. It's okay. I'm gonna see it or not see it based on that entirely. And I saw Indiana Jones myself on Thursday, and I think I'm planning to go see it again, and I think my feelings are fairly along the lines of his. I did enjoy it. It's definitely a shift in a lot of ways for for Indy compared to Crystal Skull. And not just because of we're having an octogenarian Indiana Jones in it, although that does certainly play into it. But there are choices, there are risks taken there, especially with the ending, where there's elements of this where it's like, okay, this is. You can't really gauge.
Is it weirder than demons coming out of the Ark of the Covenant and melting people's heads and gold together?
Actually,
I mean, is it, without spoiling it? I mean, isn't there a certain level of acceptance that we have?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And Thade, have you seen it yet? Thade?
He's having technical difficulties. So
okay, well,
my main thing about,
yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, no, I don't plan on seeing it till it hits streaming because, like William has often said, not a whole lot of money here right now. So the one movie I'm going to see this year, I'm going to see with my brother, is the second part of Dune because I've been looking forward to that. So I'm having to keep that money till I go to see that movie. So
what I'm running into though, and it's just not limited to Indiana Jones, The Flash, like all these movies. Pick a movie. And it seems like we've turned it into like an Olympic sport to destroy any given movie on several platforms before it even comes out. or it's not just the aggregates. It's not just Rotten Tomatoes or Cinema Score. It's just general fans in general are like, like The Flash. So like I said last week, you're gonna judge whether a movie looks visually stunning on some clown's phone versus going to see it in the IMAX that it was designed to be in. But we just don't seem to have the common sense anymore. And it's all about what you want. I'm not saying you need to love Indiana Jones or love The Flash or love Blade Runner or love any of these movies. What I am concerned about, and this is what makes movie talk not as fun as it used to be, is it used to be the person. Your sensibilities decide how you are going to perceive and receive a movie. And if you didn't like a movie based on that, that's what the conversation was about. Now the conversation seems about crapping on things up by association. It's like you see a bunch of pigeons over there eating some bread. I got to get over there and be in that crowd. I got to crap on this too. And and I see it on all levels of movies. And then I go see some of these movies. And I'm like, okay, some of you guys either didn't see these movies or we're just on two different planes of existence. But what I'm hearing, though, is like an echo chamber from people like, oh, this, and that. I'm like, wait a minute. You sound just like the last guy. It's almost like you just listened to what that guy said. Did you even go see the movie? And that's what's taking the fun out of this for me.
Well, as my colleague, Mr. Stephen Colbert, is very fond of saying, the least interesting conversation you could have about a movie or about storytelling is classifying it into the binary of is it good or is it bad. And that has become sort of the canopy that a lot of this is operating under. And as you said, also a lot of negativity is sort of seeped into it, where it's people are approaching it with a lot more cynicism in terms of criticism, or it's almost like criticism over analysis in a lot of ways. And it's like that the latter is definitely where I gravitate to a lot more.
Now, we're always, streaming is ruining the theater experience, and they're trying to kill the theaters, and nobody cares about this, nobody cares about that. They want to close up everything. Who does more damage to the theatrical experience? People who spread crap around on their crappy video on their phone, people who sit around and crap on it and pick a movie. It doesn't have to be a movie I'm bringing up, but it's out there. Who is ruining the movie-going experience more? The streaming industry and the studios who basically have to adjust and go where the money is, or the people who are doing everything they can to just ruin things before you even get to it?
Yeah, absolutely fair point.
It's almost like, what's the purpose? And like I said, Champion, who I watch, and he's the only other YouTuber I usually bring up here. He's like, would you go buy a computer without an expert opinion? Would you go get your car fixed without an expert opinion? But I'm like, and I tapped into his show one day, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Most people don't know how to build computers. Most people don't know how to work on their cars. A lot of people do, but not everybody does. Everybody knows what they like, though. You grow up, you evolve into things. You know what you like. Nobody can tell you what you're going to like more than you. And maybe some close family members or people who go to the movies with you, things like that. People who know your patterns. But no stiff somewhere, and not all critics are bad, but no critic, no somebody in Ohio or Kentucky or New York sitting on a computer, stabbing at a computer key is going to be able to tell me what I'm going to like more than me. And that's always been the case when it came to critics. That's why I don't have any use for that medium. But now it's being turned to the point where it's about destroying movies before they're even getting momentum. And you got a lot of people that work on movies, and their movies are never going to get chances. Their movies are never going to get a fair shot because they got to go through a gauntlet of nonsense just for their movie to get the light of day.
Well, and of course, kind of speaking personally, because Indiana Jones, that's definitely very much a sacred cow for me, because that's something the franchise, something I very much grew up with. I always kind of joke to say that Temple of Doom was my first R-rated movie, because who are you kidding?
Taking out a heart on the PG. Yeah,
exactly. And really, a little bit of a personal disclosure. It's like when because I first saw Temple of Doom, I think I was 7 years old, and I entertained for a little while there when I was a kid. It's like about becoming an archaeologist when I grew up. Now, I'm a kid seeing Indiana Jones, so I mean, you could very much attribute that to the idea of my mindset was, oh well, this makes archaeology. It's like it's the dream job. It's like you're It's you go on adventures and you swing on bullets and you punch out Nazis. So it's like it makes archaeology look
don't carry guns.
Hey,
Yeah,
William,
exactly.
William, I've got something to share. Something that Stella put in the back page for our Twitter page a while back. When it comes to like critics and stuff. So give me just a second to bring that up.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I'm going to answer this real question. It's going to be one of the few questions I'm going to ask. I don't have anything else. So, William, do you think Superman Legacy will overall be liked by the general audience? Or don't think it'll be liked by the general audience? It'll be divisive. I think it's going to be liked by 50% of the audience. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And you know what will happen if you stick with that 50% and you stay your course? Eventually, you're going to get some of those other people. You're going to end up with 60 to 75. But you cannot panic when 50% of the people who have that Superman in their head, they still got Christopher Reeve in their head. They're still waiting for Christopher Reeve to walk through the door. All right. Those people, you have to work on those people. You have to give them some time to warm up to your Superman. And it's going to take 3 or 4 years. I think initially it's going to be divisive, just like all Superman movies going forward will be. But you stick with your storyteller, you stick with your story, and you prove to those other people that this can be their Superman too. Embracing this Superman is not going to destroy the Superman of your childhood. It doesn't work that way. All right. So go ahead, Dave.
All right.
Hey, you're Cisco and Ebert at the movies. I remember those guys.
I feel about young people writing or any criticism at all by anybody of any age is either implicitly or not, it's in the first person.
Correct.
And it's not a science, and you're not talking about the truth, and you're not saying this is what happened. What you're saying is this is what happened to me. This is how I feel. I almost think that in journalism school they should make all reviews and criticisms be in the first person to remind people that it's their own view and not some kind of a scientific objective overview, because there's no such thing as objectivity in the arts. It's all subjective, and you might as well admit that. I feel about young people writing or any criticism at all by any.
Okay, so basically, and that's great right there.
Oh, you're echoing, thing.
I shouldn't be. Okay, I'm not anymore. All right. But that's the point we're trying to make here about the critics. Even even that particular critic right there, who is a well-known critic, said, "Hey, that's just my opinion. You don't have to base your opinion on mine. It's better if you just go and see it. This is just my experience with a movie." And that's what makes it good.
And Roger Ebert, he was for anybody who might not be kind of familiar with the entirety of his career, he was he notoriously was not enamored with the star rating system. So the way he sort of approached it was, it's like, whether it's 1 star to 4 star, however you want to put it, it's like I'm categorizing that within the context of what this movie's striving to do. So I give something 3 stars. That's not like an absolute, this is like the letter grade for it. This is with what this movie's aspiring to be. This is how I feel it achieved that.
Yeah, I agree. Which
And by the way, he was
all right. There we go. I was echoing to you, but and William, what should the budget for Superman Legacy be? Here's and this is gonna sound crazy. Spend what you need to. Spend what you need to. You're gonna probably either make a very slim profit with this because of just where we are at with DC Films, or you're gonna lose. But you must establish the most quality film. You're not gonna get another first shot at this. I mean, not for another 5 or 6 years, as far as James Gunn's go. If you look at it and it costs this much, if it costs $250 and that's what the cost is, that's what you need to do. Do not do pick and save Superman. If you do pick and save Superman, you're gonna lose the audience right there. You can get away with a grounded Batman that doesn't cost that much, but if you're gonna do a James Gunn type of movie and a Superman type of movie that's been consistent with what comic book movies are at these days, you got to spend what it takes. This is an investment. This is going to be one of those things where you're planting a seed and it may not grow like immediately, but this is your foundation. So whatever the budget is, I don't think it's going to be 300. I don't think it needs to be 300. But if it's 250 million, that's what it is. Don't be trying to shave off and make a $90 million Superman. Whatever you think you need to go to that this is what I need to make the movie right. You cannot, and in your rest of your movies, maybe you can cut corners, Blue Beetle 2 or whatever. You cut your corners somewhere around there. But you don't do it with the establishing movie, because this is the first impression of your DCU. You are not going to get another chance to make it. So spend what you need to. I'm thinking if it's consistent with a modern superhero movie making, it's going to be around $250 million. That's my guess. All right.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's about what I would guess too. Yeah.
All right, guys. No more. That's it. I'm not answering any more Superman.
Yeah, let's move on from the WB questions, everybody. We're getting burned out on WB here.
Well, we'd love to, but WB certainly keeps making it easy to go back in that direction.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to work extra hard. So what else was on my thumbnail? Hey, listen. Oh, dude, Empire Magazine. Empire Magazine has put out. Go ahead and mute you guys. So I'm not coming to you. There you go. Let's see. Wow, here we go, dude. This looks amazing. These are some of the images, and I'm gonna go. Listen, I don't buy physical magazines that much anymore, other than the comic books I'm surrounding myself with, and horror magazines. But as far as like these magazines, they're expensive, and I can get it all in there. I'm gonna get this one because I'm pretty sure it's better than it is online. Here are some of the images from I wish I could blow these up, from Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, a movie that I am looking forward to for so many reasons and on so many different levels that go deeper than it being Zack Snyder and me liking his comic book stuff. This looks like a masterclass in this type of movie making, and I can't wait. I cannot wait to see this movie. This is that ship that you saw in the trailer, and I mean it looks like nuclear warfare going on in the forefront there. There's the cover right there. I want that that could be the movie poster right there. You got to be pretty damn good to make him on the Empire Magazine. This is a big deal.
And by the way,
go ahead.
One thing I thought I'd mention also that maybe Zach going a little bit meta here, but Jamon Hansu's character, General Titus, he's apparently he's listed in one of the interviews Zach did. He's a former gladiator. So
that's cool.
Yeah, let everybody connect the dots there.
Yeah, you look at this, and I see Magnificent Seven. I see Seven Samurai when I'm looking at this right here. This right here, be honest with you, I know that it may be exaggeration because obviously working on huge iconic characters like Batman and Superman is a lot for a lot of people. Is going to be maybe the top that they get. And that usually is what makes a lot of your careers when you get to that level. Dare I say, Rebel Moon might be the career definer for Zack Snyder. Am I crazy in saying that?
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of one to mull over. Because obviously this is the whole franchise universe, all of his own creation, and of course he's coming off of dealing with iconic characters like the Trinity and the Superman, the Justice League. So, I mean, I think there's definitely a case for that. Even with the impact he has made and his DC movies continue to make, post release, it's like with what he's setting up with Rebel Moon, there's definitely. He's setting up like a new kind of sci-fi iconography with these characters and this universe that he's setting up, and on kind of a personal level with me, one way that I'm looking forward to Rebel Moon is this is more of a me thing, but and this might irk you a little bit, William, is that this is obviously it began as kind of his concept for a Star Wars movie, and then that didn't take off, and he's reworked it into what it is now.
That doesn't bother me.
No, not that, but what I'm leading into with that is that because you do a stream talking about Star Trek, and it's like I really I've never really gotten to Star Trek myself. Like the only Star Trek thing I've ever seen really are the new ones, where Chris Pine's playing Kirk, and then Star Wars. I really didn't get into that much, until my 20s. So it's like I'm Star Wars. I'm much more of a Johnny come lately, and then Star Trek, I'm just completely out of the loop on. So the thing I'm looking forward to about Rebel Moon is everything he's setting up with it being the sci-fi universe and franchise where he gave that one interview where he said where it's like, oh yeah, we would love like other directors to come in and do spin-offs and world building with that, and things like that, of that nature. The thing I'm really looking forward to about it is because I wasn't even born also when Star Trek and Star Wars began, is with Rebel Moon. It's like I'm going to be part of the audience. It's on the ground floor right as it's taken off. So that's on a personal level. That's very very gratifying, very exciting for me.
Yeah, to me, and it took me a while to. I had to see the visions and I had to see the visuals coming from it, because obviously going through what we went through and watching how he was treated and what we weren't going to get, I had to get out of my mindset of like, because as DC fans, we've always had to settle for the other thing because we couldn't get the thing that they promised. And I had to see visually Rebel Moon and the stills and the concept art coming out to really get out of the mindset that this is a consolation prize. This is not a consolation prize. This could be the capstone. And like I said, I may sound crazy because it's not out yet, and we have all these movies that he's done that he's made iconic. But this is the type of movie, and it has the type of, the influences from the interviews I'm reading and what I can see. It has a kind of influence. If you looked at the movies that have had those influences in them, they're all epics. Everything that Akira Kurosawa does has influence, and everyone he's influenced is an epic level director. Has made epic level stuff. George Lucas, obviously, epic level stuff. Quentin Tarantino, influenced by that, epic level stuff. Anybody who has those influences that I see running through Rebel Moon has made epic stuff, and the stuff that has been influenced by it has been epic. I don't think there's anything in his catalog, to be honest with you, when all is said and done and this movie is out or this trilogy is done, this may stand out amongst all those things. I think it has the potential to be that. Simple because of the influences and just from the brief stuff. That trailer, when they released that teaser, that was perfect. That's everything I need in it to get excited about. So.
Coming from a Star Wars fan like myself, this actually looks really good, and I know it initially came from his idea behind his own what he was working on for a Star Wars sequel or movie. But this looks really good with what he's doing with it, and I think this has some potential. Plus, it has several actors in it that I actually really love. Charlie Hunnam, for one, Desmond Honshu. I mean, this has got a lot of good actors in it, so I think the ensemble cast looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, look who's able. I mean, Sophia Butera, she's great. I love her in Atomic Blonde. Charlie Hunnam, I mean, everybody knows him from
Sons of Anarchy.
I was going to say Pacific Rim.
And Pacific Rim.
That was when I first saw him, was Pacific.
I haven't seen Pacific Rim since I saw this movie. All right, so yeah, there's these covers are great. I'm gonna get these covers. I cannot wait to find this movie when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm very looking forward. I'm looking forward to the first proper trailer too when we get that. And that's of course, and then of course, I mean you're picking like a pretty great slot to drop this, during the holidays in December. I mean, and of course it's supposed to have a limited theater run, similar to what Army of the Dead had. So I would guess that would precede the Netflix. It's supposed to hit Netflix on December 22nd. So my guess is that's maybe gonna be like a week or two ahead of that.
They might release it on Christmas Day. That'd be the best thing to do. But I'm going to go somewhere to see this. If it's California, I'm assuming that it's going to be. I'm hoping that we get a screening here in Vegas, and I hope that, like we did with Army of the Dark, because we promoted Army of the Dead. I almost said Army of Darkness, and we still have like a little Las Vegas patches from that. And I'm hoping I've reached out to our intermediates. I'm like, please let me promote this one. because not only do I want to promote this movie, I want to promote the influences that are. It seems to be making this movie what it is. Visually, you're looking at a lot of these, like a spaghetti western or an old western, things that were influenced that way. But you're taking it into my favorite place, which is space. Now, usually when you take certain genres into space, that means it's over. But this, to me, it almost has. I don't want to get in too much trouble with the Firefly fans out there. It almost has an edgier Firefly look to it, but a more fantasy edge. So, without seeing the trailer, that's all I have. What they showed us at Tadum, which got us taken down that day. So,
I'm also
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to because I actually got the chance about 8 years ago. It was Buddy and I. We went to Tampa Comic Con, and we got to one of the panels we got to attend was with Jenna Malone. This was when she was promoting, like the Hunger Games, that was coming up at the time, but also, of course, she's in BBS as Jeanette Clyburn. I think it's a minor role, and that was also before the whole Ultimate Edition took her out and then put her back in. But she's in this. She's going to be in Rebel Moon. Interesting thing too, as this spider creature character by the name of Harmata, and of course, with some of Zach's recent production history, there's maybe something to read into that.
Yeah, unfortunately. So let's move on from that to another movie that, to me, Dune Part 2, just being in between the gravitational pull of what is going to be these two movies is going to be.
Dude, I wish we could play that trailer. That trailer was amazing.
Can we play that trailer? Can we not play? I know.
We got pulled down with Rebel Moon with not even the trailer, but the Tadum footage last time. So I mean, I don't know. Do you want to roll the dice on that?
I sent out an email to the person who usually gives me the thumbs up, and I didn't hear back to him before the show. I'm pretty sure I could, but after I had to upload those two parts.
No. I'm not gonna bother with it, but I wish we could show that trailer. That trailer is epic.
That trailer, was and it is interesting that the kind of like the 1-2 punch of Dune and Rebel Moon. This in November and December, these two big sci-fi epics, and Dune's another one where it's like I kind of sort of happenstanced into discovering that. More recently, actually, true story with the original one from the 80s. I saw that on TV when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old on, of all places, the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how it ended up on there, but that's kind of where I first. And that also had that. I'm sure you've seen this where it had that. This was like the extended TV version. It had that really, really long kind of intro laying out this is the house of Bene Gesserit, and this is how the Spacing Guild works, and this is where the spice comes from, and et cetera, et cetera. It's so I have an interesting history with Dune that's maybe not as clean a path as a lot of the more ardent fans of the Dune universe maybe have had.
He's like, yeah, you should be able to show the trailer. There are so many trailer reaction videos. Yeah, I have seen those all over the place. I'm gonna go ahead and show it. Because
I'll bring it up, William. I'll bring it up.
Bring up the official trailer, though. Make sure you bring up the one.
Oh, it's going to be the official. It's going to be the official.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Okay, here it is. Here's the one from Warner Brothers. All right. I just want to say this. Any arguing in the chat, please chill it. I don't have time to go into the chat and say anything about it. Stella is our mod. Please, Fourth, understand she does have her own opinion. Back off. No fighting tonight, people. All right. Ready for this?
Yeah.
Go for it.
This world is beyond cruelty. You've been fighting the Harkonnens for decades. My family's been fighting them for centuries. They were massacred alongside my father.
Your father didn't believe in revenge. We believe in Fremen.
Let me fight beside you.
Reload!
He said I got that. Thanks.
I won't be fighting for him. I'm fighting for my people.
You young pup.
Do you believe in Poe?
There are signs. The prophet. Why is that a bad thing? Use it.
Because all my visions lead to horror.
Because you lose control.
Because I gain it. Johnny, do you believe in me?
Paul Atreides is still alive.
I need more cowbell.
Deal with this prophet. Show me who you are. Your father. Was a weak man. Look who's back from the dead.
I will do what must be done.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
I will love you as long as I breathe.
This prophecy is how they enslave us!
It's not a prophecy. It's a story.
I don't care what you believe. I believe. I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, Duke of Arrakis.
He who can destroy a thing has the real control of it.
Yeah, that scale is pretty breathtaking.
I
That's
will
a
say
Academy
this.
Award-winning trip right there, man.
There's a scene there where he calls out Tony's name and she flips around in battle. It's just like it mimics one of his visions in the first movie, where he flips around and the visor flips up and it's him. That scene is one for one, like perfectly matched with that
Oh, where
scene.
yeah. It's like a hot toy figure right there.
Yeah.
All right. So Dune is going to be great. I'm going to be doing a lot of
And I have to.
comparing the two together and what their influences are. Go ahead.
I also have to say this about it. Anybody who's read the books, which I know William decries these books because they're lengthy, but and boring at times.
Very boring.
The description of Paul Atreides in the books, Timothy Chalamet looks almost exactly like him. Like he's got this, Chalamet looks like he could be a teenager, and he's got that slight build. Because Paul Atreides, if you ever see the other two versions of this, the '84 movie and the Sci-Fi miniseries, Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, he was an older, he's always played by older actors that were bigger, buffer guys. He was never buff.
Yeah, he was played by Kyle MacLachlan, right?
He was played by Kyle MacLachlan in the '84 movie, and Alex Newman in the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
And also a little bit of clarification now that you're mentioning that, on my part being, not that well versed in, the Dune wider franchise. Like one thing I've kind of inferred from a lot of people talk about is that, he's portrayed as sort of the savior figure, to the Fremen, to the people of Arrakis. But apparently later on in the books, he turns out to maybe be not so much, without going too deep into it.
He was a savior figure. He was supposed to be the Mahdi. He was supposed to be their Messiah, the Fremen Messiah. But he ended up, learning that in becoming a leader, he destroyed those people. In fighting his jihad across the universe, he destroyed what the Fremen were, and he knew because he was trapped by destiny and by his vision of the future that he had to do that for humanity to change.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. I'm just kidding.
Okay, because some of the commentary I've seen on the prior Dune adaptations, how they handle Paul Atreides. That's again for somebody who's not read through the whole volume of Dune scripture. That's something I'm kind of curious about. Is the entire the totality of the portrayal of Paul Atreides.
I did my English thesis in university on Frank Herbert, the man who wrote those books. So I went into his representation of the savior figure and how he played it off and what it was meant to be in the story. So I could actually deep dive on that, and
I would rather
it would take me hours. So never mind.
Let's see. Yeah, Paul's jihad took 61 billion lives across the known universe.
Exactly. 61 billion people died in his war.
There goes your happy ending.
Well, because like the whole timeline of Dune apparently unfolds over like 125,000 years or something.
Yep.
Okay.
It's 125,000 years into the future of our Earth, supposedly. The planet Earth is no longer livable. It's been destroyed, thousands of years ago, and humanity had to spread out across the galaxy. There's different things that are going on with different groups of people. It's all plans within plans and politics and everything. It's a whole thing. Like I said, I could talk for hours about it, but I'm not going to bore people right now.
Well, because what you were just saying there about again colonizing or spreading across the universe, from Earth after it becomes uninhabitable. Because my reading of Dune, and tell me how spot on I am with this, is Dune in a lot of ways. It's almost like Game of Thrones in space. Is kind of the impression I've had of the whole franchise.
That's actually Martin's influence for Game of Thrones. One of his influences was Dune. So yeah.
Okay.
Just added TNA and
oh God.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
he's not wrong. That he added TNA, and that's basically all he really did with it.
Well, and a lot of blood and guts.
Yeah, and Dune, if you read Dune, there's a lot of blood and guts there too. I mean, it's actually more blood and guts than the occasional, because when you watch Game of Thrones, there's big battles that'll most of the dying in individuals, but a lot more people die in Dune than Game of Thrones. It's just that it's obviously it's a different setting, and it's the way women and what you needed to use as a woman back in the Game of Thrones era was different than what you would be using in Frank Herbert's era. There you go.
Yeah, they really picked the perfect one for the Disney Channel when I was a kid.
Yeah. He had a TNA and interest. Yep, exactly.
And dragons.
And dragons. In that order, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so what else we got here? So what else? I just want to make sure I covered everything on this abbreviated edition. We talked Secret Invasion. We talked casting, probably more than I wanted to talk about Superman. Legacy. We talked Indiana Jones. We've talked Dune. We haven't talked Money in the Bank yet. We'll hit that right now. For my wrestling geeks, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Money in the Bank was actually a pretty solid pay-per-view. I mean, by WWE standards, so it is what it is. But the matches were pretty good. The women's match had a code red, which is basically an inverted atomic drop onto a ladder, which I thought paralyzed her. The matches were good. Roman Reigns was finally pinned after 3 years. He didn't lose his title because it was a tag team match. That was decent. The women's tag team title was decent. It was a pretty solid. Damian Priest ended up winning the Money in the Bank for his end, and Io Sky ended up winning it for her end. And that's going to set up storylines because they're both part of factions that were both fighting for the Money in the Bank. So each of those people get a title shot that the other person in the faction didn't get. So there's going to be some friction there. It was in London, so I had to watch it earlier in the afternoon. But other than that, I don't know if I have all my wrestling fans are usually on my weeknight shows, but I did put the briefcase in there. Anybody got any questions about wrestling? J Money, I thought I said this on Tuesday. The casting is strong. I am never ever gonna watch the Marvels and Maze. It's just never gonna happen. So I'm gonna take the Emmy awards and the Emmy nominations he's gotten for that, and I'm gonna take their word for it. David Cornsweet, he has the current look, even though it doesn't really matter to me how these people look because of makeup artists and everything else. I mean, someone looking like the character doesn't mean anything to me. The Penguin, both people who played the Penguin cinematically did not look like the Penguin. Colin Farrell did not look like that Penguin you saw in the Batman, and Danny DeVito did not look like the Penguin that you saw there. So to me, if the person can act and is close enough, they don't have to look anything like them. They don't need to be a blonde, obviously. You got wigs, you got makeup, all that, but the casting seemed to be pretty strong. And that's pretty much where I draw the line because, like I said, with 700 some odd days between now and then, I just can't. I just don't have the regard that I have for like the things that we've been talking about, like Dune and Rebel Moon, because those things are right. They're coming right up, or are within a realistic frame of mind for me to wrap myself around. Also, I've graduated from the University of DC Films, and the lessons I learned there just don't get excited about anything that they're doing until it's in front of you, or you see production stills, or you see trailers, because that degree that I've gotten from DC Films, the course I took was watching things get started and never getting finished. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to happen with these things coming up, but I would be an absolute fool if I wasn't apprehensive about getting too excited about anything that they're putting out right now. I'm not saying that means it's going to be trash. I think it's going to be quite good. I enjoy most of James Gunn's work, going all the way back to Trauma. These people he picked are pretty solid, but I've heard this before. I've heard a group of people being assembled that were pretty solid and that looked the part and that were perfect for the part, and I ended up spending a lot of time and kind of going nowhere. So I'm going to take my degree, my DC Films degree, put it up on that wall, and take those lessons I've learned, and I'm going to take a wait and see attitude.
He says, I feel you on that. I'm excited about what Gunn can do, but it's definitely just wait and see.
I'm still a fan. I'm still on their side. I'm just not the guy at the arena with the sign. I'm watching still, but it's on my couch with my remote in hand, where I'm safe from the investment of emotion and time that I've already spent. And after you get past this first chapter, if everything's still good, I'm going to start sliding towards the arena, But right now, I've learned too much. They've showed me, the only evidence I have is what they've done. And even though it's a different regime, it's still, money's still green. People are still greedy. People still get panicked when they don't reach stupid ass expectations. We still have idiot fanboys out there that are just out there to ruin cinematic experiences for people before the movies get released. All that stuff's still there. So William is on his sofa with the little Roku remote, just, right there, just aiming it, just tuning in, watching the trailers. But William is not at the arena right now. I'm just not that dedicated to what's coming yet. So, casting, we'll see.
That's why, again, we keep saying resolve the Snyderverse.
Yeah, I just don't feel like spending another 3 or 4 years into something that doesn't have an ending.
And that's fair enough, to be honest.
Yeah. So
hey, you've been waiting a few years. I've been waiting 30. So they still haven't impressed me yet. So we'll go from there.
All right, man. Yes, make sure you guys sub to our page to catch exclusive shows in the future. Yeah, the main one will be this one. This one is going to be moving over there, and it's going to transform into the flagship show of that network, and it'll go along with my shorts and things like that. We will still produce plenty of content for Poindexter Lounge. We're still waiting to see exactly when and where and what format Enosh is coming back in. And once we get that cue, then we'll design our content around there. Because mainly he's the flagship person on his channel. So we want to basically fit in where it complements what he's doing. So we're still waiting on that. But yeah, we're going to be doing this show next week. Keep an eye out. We got some shorts. You're going to start seeing a lot more a lot more of the people that we send to movies, I'm going to start getting their out of, because I'm not going to all these movies. Like when I send people to Blue Beetle, because I'm not going to go see Blue Beetle in movies, I still want to get their out of theater reaction. So you're going to see a lot of my geeks that we send to these movies, Mission Impossible, all of them. If it's not me giving the out of theater reaction, or it's going to be one of them and giving you an honest reaction right out of the theater. So you're going to see some unfamiliar faces pop up on our channel because I really do want to start getting into the. I want to start getting directly to the people who are seeing these movies and get what's on their mind. I don't give a shit anymore about the guy who sits behind the keyboard and just destroys a movie anymore. I want to actually hear it from the people who invested their time. Even if they saw it for free, it's 2 hours of your time, 2.5 hours of your time. I want to hear from the people who actually, that I know went and saw these movies and made the investment of taking the wives and the kids and all that to the movies. And I want to hear what they're saying, because to be honest with you, their opinion gets lost in all of this other stuff, and you can never get a clear picture. And so, in my opinion, if you can't get a clear picture of what people are trying to tell you, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't do anything for me. Cinema Score doesn't do anything for me. Nothing that was in any of those aggregates told me what Cody told me, and in the 3 minutes I had him on my screen. Now, as a fan, you can take what Cody said and go toss it, or if it lines up with your movie-going experience, you'll be able to recognize that, then use that. But I'd much rather have somebody on here that's had seen the movie, good or bad. At least it's not somebody laying in wait for a movie to come out so they can just piss on it as soon as it gets out there. I'm like, I haven't heard anybody who I've sent to Indiana Jones that for the most part enjoyed themselves. But if you hear it on other platforms, it's like, oh my God, they ruined Indy. I'm like, come on now. And it's just movie going across the board. I really hope, with my little inch of the internet, I can try to do better than that. I obviously I'm not going to be a dumbass who sits in a movie theater and takes screen captures and comes to you and tells you, look, this is awful. And I don't surround myself with people like that. So hopefully we, can cut through the fatty tissue and get right to the customer. And then you as the audience can make up your mind whether, does your sensibilities line up with that guy. So yeah, sub to our channel. We're going to be doing a lot. Like I said, I'm trying to make this whole movie, talking about cinema and movie, fun. The movies themselves are fine, even if they're low quality movies. It's the fandom around these movies. And I'm not just talking about DC fandom. I'm talking about movies in general. We could do an entire stream of just how many movies are destroyed before they are even done. And
we're also
of the movie.
We're also hopefully going to get back to doing the Sci-Fi Center Presents stuff too, because we've got quite a few topics we got to work on that too as well.
Yeah, we got about 10 or 20 of those. Hello, Keely Chow. What's going on?
What's up, Keely?
All right. I got the Money in the Bank question. Cool. William, I love Money in the Bank. I thought Finn was going to defeat Seth, and Priest was going to catch. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm like, wow, they're going to do this? That would have been a swerve, but they decided that they're going to let that brew. Love you returning for Gunther. I cannot stand Gunther though. I'm tired of that guy. The guy is exciting for his cardboard multiplying. That's what's going to be a brawl. I love Shayna's turnaround. Yeah, that caught me by surprise. They don't do heel turns that good anymore. A lot of times you can kind of see it coming. She came out of nowhere with that one. I've seen that type of heel turn. That was back like when the Horsemen and Barry Windham and Lex Luger, and then Barry Windham turned on Lex Luger in the middle of the match. But you could kind of see that coming because they had been bribing him all the way. Now they did it, and you're going to have to watch Raw. And, obviously she's going to come out and give her speech, and then now it's MMA girl versus MMA girl. So it's going to make for a good match. They're doing a little bit of a better job with WWE in the past 30 days. It's a lot more watchable because, I have zero fucks about WWE's product for the most part. I think it's a bad product. But these last two pay-per-views have been better. The Uso storyline has gone on too long. We're just talking about the last time Roman Reigns was pinned is in December 22nd, 2019. That's too long for it to have gone on. And even though it's starting to wrap up well, as they're starting to disintegrate, it's still sometimes you can stick the landing, but if you've already broken your neck, then it doesn't work. So yeah, I actually enjoyed this pay-per-view. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this pay-per-view. I think the Money in the Bank match is a gimmick they use too often, but that being said, I think it was used well. The women's matches end up usually being better, and they were, like I said, they did some really, 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 really super high spots in this match with ladders. And like I said, you only have so much degree of margin for error when you're doing a flip onto a ladder. She did a code red, which is basically, like I said, it's an inverted. If you ever watch Dustin Rhodes, it's where it looks like you're about to pile drive somebody, but instead of pile driving, you flip over and you bring them with you. Canadian destroyer in some cases that people call it, but she did it from the top of a ladder or midway to a ladder that was laying this way, and the other girl's head landed right in between the two. You don't know how much rehearsal. I don't care if wrestling is stage, fake, whatever you want to call it. You have to be an absolute professional to do what these guys do without ending up in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. The coordination was, like I said, these Money in the Bank. Like I said, whenever you get a ladder involved, even if it's a light aluminum ladder, when you're coming from 10 feet down on it, it don't matter. It hurts. You could still break your neck. You could still break your leg. So kudos to those people who were able to make all that very believable. I enjoyed it. I'm trying to come to 2. I think she's going to end it. Please, end that run. But if Shayna really turned heel, well, when they were both heels, I asked us earlier, can a heel have a heel turn? Oh, yeah, heel can have a heel turn. Back in the old days, they didn't do it that way. But in the modern era, yeah, and what ends up usually happening is when you have two heroes turn on each other, then the one becomes a babyface. That's generally how they're going to make Ronda Rousey more marketable as a good girl. All right.
He says, "Where's Bobby Lashley? By the way, this guy is on SmackDown. He should be going after Roman. Is he hurt?"
I think Bobby Lashley's hurt because he was on the pay-per-view. He was in his suit. Once again, Bobby Lashley is 46, 47 years old, looking like that. And we got Tom Cruise flying off of a bike over a cliff. And that's him. That's not a dummy. That's not some Tom Cruise lookalike. That's not some guy who's 30 years younger doing things that a guy 30 years younger should be able to do doing it. That's Tom Cruise. So Bobby Lashley and Tom Cruise, if you're watching this show, screw both of you guys for looking like that. Anyway, but yeah, I think he's injured because he was actually at the show dressed up.
I've got some other questions that I've been holding.
Go ahead, let's line them up. We got time.
All right. Chappie here says, "What are your thoughts on the Crow City of Angels?"
The sequel?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was very good. I really didn't think it was going to do well based on the premise. I'm a big aficionado of the Crow. If you study the legend of the Crow, that's it. Eric Draven is the only one that's going to look like that. He's the only one, and it's going to be for that one night. That's it. And I've seen other things with the Crow, and they've tried to copy it, but so the premise wasn't very good to begin with. The story was they were just trying to capture the energy, the same energy that Brandon Lee brought to it, and it just wasn't going to happen. The best thing about the Crow City of Angels was the soundtrack. There was a song on there by Hole that was a remake of a Fleetwood Mac song, I think Gold Dust Woman, which was pretty good. Other than that, all the derivative stuff that the Crow has done, even with the remake, I think the remake is going to have a lot of issues.
Well, Jason Momoa, there was
trying to capture 1994 again. You're trying to capture the energy that made that movie and everything around it, and I don't think you can redo it. So, not the worst movie in the world, Chappie, but not a very good one.
Well, Jason Momoa was at one point attached to be Eric Draven in the remake, and I remember the whole time I was thinking it's like he would probably make it a hell of a top dollar.
Yeah,
he would.
You'd have to be on there without a shirt on, making money. But, yeah,
just imagine him going, "Are we having fun or what?"
Yeah, that would be horrible. Next one.
Okay, let me see here. Going back to the Dune stuff for a second. Spider-Man here says Dune heavily influenced Lucas and Star Wars, which is true.
Yep.
And
That's
he
why
says
these movies
here,
are so amazing.
he said Prana Bindu, for example, influenced the Jedi. Prana Bindu was a Bene Gesserit fighting style. The Jedi were originally called the Jedi Bindu, which is also true.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of influences for Lucas with Dune, because Dune was written. The original book was actually, well, the original short story that influenced the book Dune was written in 61. The novel was written in 65. So there was a lot of room for it to influence a lot of things, not just uh, Star Wars, but several other sci-fi stuff too.
No, I agree, and that's what makes all these movies that are coming up very special. Makes Dune special. It makes Rebel Moon special. Simply because these influencers are interconnected and they're starting to break through.
Well, actually, by the way, William, what you were saying a little bit ago, excuse me, about Kurosawa being such a an influence that Zach is taking on Rebel Moon. That's actually it seems to be kind of a recurring because he's also said it's like that was also an influence for him on Justice League. So that's kind of a recurring sort of theme for him, is the idea of the band of warriors being summoned together for a common threat that's established in Seven Samurai, the kind of template for that. It seems to be kind of a running theme he's sort of bringing together now for a lot of his work.
Well,
Yeah.
what's
And
also a
that's
good thing. What's also a good thing is that it also influenced Kurosawa also influenced Lucas's Star Wars. So
yeah,
there
easily.
there's a lot of influences there that everybody's using, and that's a good thing because these things are all like interwoven in different ways.
And that's the kind of movie talk that and a film discussion I want to have going forward is how these type of influences, not whether it's going to make $1 billion or not whether an idiot executive screwed up somewhere, that kind of stuff I'm exhausted at. But the kind of the influential conversation is the one, because like I said, we got two big movies that are on a scale like that if you dig enough beneath the surface have influenced and allowed each other to exist. And that's a conversation we could have infinitely. So go ahead, next one.
Chappie says, question: what is the deal with some people not being able to embrace something new like Man of Steel or the Total Recall remake? He's basically like, what's the problem with remakes? Is basically what he's saying.
Well, the most for most people, whenever they make something, it's the same thing with the Superman thing, is these movies represent a special time and place and aura for people, and some of them think that if it's being remade, it is invalidating that time, that thing that made it special for them. Like for me, I think the Crow is going to struggle, not because I can't let go of those feelings, but because those feelings and that atmosphere was what made the Crow successful. But if they make a new Crow movie and it bombs, I'm always going to have that same emotion. I'm always going to have that same feeling as it pertains to the 1990 version of Crow. But people identify with these characters in these stories as part of them, as part of their childhood. And when you are remaking them, it's almost like you're doing damage into something that means a lot to them. That is a issue that individual customer needs to work out for themselves. I'm not a big fan of remakes in general, unless you. The only time I think you should make a remake is if you can drastically change. There's some dramatic differences in technology, like the difference between the Thing from Another World, which technically is not wasn't a remake when they did in '82, but kind of was. But you look at the technological and atmospheric differences that were in John Carpenter's The Thing versus the one that was released in 1952. Or if you're talking about a movie that is like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where we have different technology. When they did the Donald Sutherland version versus the one that was released 20 years prior, there was a big technological shift and jump in the way movie making was, to where even though it was the same Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it was a drastically and dramatically different movie. So I think under those rules, you make a remake. If you can't make it better, then I just say don't touch it. But the reason to answer your question, Chappie, that's why people take it personally. Next one.
Uh, okay. Stella says Kurosawa is required watching in film school. He packs in storyline and action in every shot.
Yeah, my sister graduated from film school in UNLV, and yes, that is 100% true.
By the way, another Kurosawa, Zack Snyder connection, which this has been out there for a while, but I mean, he's mentioned also talking about the Nightmare timeline and wanting to have the kind of the Last Supper before the mission to undo the nightmare, and he's likened that to going back to. He was intended to go back to revisit the murder of Robin at the hands of the Joker, and he's likened that to Rashomon. Again, another Kurosawa one there.
Yeah, I hope I get a chance to interview that guy one day, because it's funny is a lot of people if they ever get a chance to interview Zack Snyder, I even posted a question in Film Junkies thing. He never got to it because there was so much going on about the influences, some of the influences that are making Rebel Moon what it is. I could sit and talk to that guy, be honest with you, and not bring up any DC references. I could sit and talk with that guy for an hour and just pick his brain about the influences that before 2000, 8 or 2009 when you did Watch Me. Before that, what were your influences, and how is that? I'd have a lot to say, and none of it would have to do with comic books. And this is coming from the comic book guy. So next one.
Kathy says if you plan discussing movies and all that, live stream was talk about people movies are they even released.
Okay, hold on. Let me see this again. I mean, I think I don't know if I can drive the point any home any further than I've already done. I don't think it would. See, and the reason why I may not want to do a stream like that is because there's already enough negative energy out there with people doing it, and I really want to gear my streams towards,
positivity.
Making people happy about being in this. We don't always have to agree, but I want people to feel good about watching the show one way or another, whether we agree or not, and being in the genre itself. Enjoy this thing that we have. Enjoy these movies that we have coming in. And I think that too many people profit off of the misery, profit off of the plane crashing instead of, most planes, take off and land just fine. And I watch my streams over and over again to see where I can get better. And that's one of the things I want to eliminate. There are a lot of other platforms you guys can go to, and they sell misery. They sell conflict. And that's fine. That's just not what I want to do. That's why when I answer questions like Anthony, when Anthony's in here, it's not an adversarial thing. I'm not, butting heads with you. I am exploring the point that you're making in the best way I know how. I don't agree with some of the things that he says, but at the same time, that's a valid point. And most of the people who bring up things in these chats are it's not the first time I've heard it. So when I'm addressing them, I'm trying to address all of that at one time. But no, I could there's just too many platforms out there that, like I said, that exist and have monetized misery. And I just don't want to be that. And like I said, I'm looking over my streams and cutting out some of the things. If you watched me stream, in my behavior, whether it be on a panel or whether it be on our own streams, you should hopefully be noticing there's I've made some adjustments in our tone and conversation, and I'm going to be making more. It's just a matter of you notice I don't cuss as much as I did when we first started. Holy cow! I listened to myself on this TV the other day, and I'm like, I can't even play my own stream and my own store because of my own language. So I've adjusted that. Yeah, we still drop a couple every now and then, but go back and listen to my feelings about being robbed of my hour in daylight savings. I can't play that in the center.
Howard the Duck.
But it's there. And I look at those, but like I said, I just don't want to be the guy. And when I say I don't want to talk about DC or anything like that, it's not because I don't care. Obviously, I'm a comic book salesman. Of course I care about DC. But so much of the conversation has become a gotcha thing. There are people who are out there that are happy that someone's not getting a continuation of something. There are people out there that put it in their thumbnails and because they know that's going to be antagonistic. To me, if I don't like something, I just move on. How many times, other than when we're joking, do I have? I've never seen Howard the Duck in my thumbnail. I think that's a pile of crap.
But it is a great rant.
But here's the thing, though. Beyond that, it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't bring joy to me as far as it doesn't entertain me. So I don't bring it up unless it's in response to somebody else bringing it up. I just too much of, okay, so if you liked a certain TV show, all you guys that are losing all your CW TV shows, I think the CW was a mistake to begin with, and it's never made money. I don't like low budget superhero stuff. That's just me. But I understand there are people out there who like it, even if you're not the biggest audience in the world. You know, if I told you that, you know, your favorite CW show wasn't continuing, and you were going to spend the next 2 or 3 years doing whatever you could to try to get it back on, I'm not going to profit from your misery. Even if I agree, hey, you know, it was time for the show to have the plug pulled on it. But I'm not going to, you trying to get it back is not going to influence my life at all. You're not going to be in my thumbnail because you went on a crusade to get it back.
And
I'm
to
going
add
to wish
that,
you all the luck in your world, and then I'm going to move in my own direction.
and to add to what William's saying, you know, I am one of those guys who is going to miss the CW shows, but we don't argue about it. I mean, he ribs me about it from time to time, which is funny as hell. But like, we don't argue about it, is what we're getting at. There's no need to be arguing about any of this. You know, we can have a. Go ahead, Brad.
I mean, I've had to, you know, it's I lucked out here getting at least one more season of Superman and Lois. So
yeah, I mean, it would like I said, I watch, you know, obviously in the community that we're in, we have that. That's what they do. A lot of people have made a lot of money, or a significant amount of money by that. And being right or wrong, that's another thing. I'm not here to dominate your frame of mind or to waterboard you into thinking what I'm saying. We can talk and get up from the table with the same opinions that we had. If there is an opportunity for me to grow, that's fine. But it's not I'm not keeping a scoreboard if somebody's right or wrong. I'm not, you know, some of these people that are like, well, you said this 6 months ago. You know what was happening 6 months ago? It was 6 months ago. You know, and just like I said, I watch my streams so that I can evolve and get better at this. So the whole right and wrong. So when we're going at it, we're not, I mean, it's not a war. It's you're putting your opinion out there. I'm putting my opinion out there. And if you notice, for better or for worse, I go up and down most of the questions. When it's just me, when we're doing a solo, I answer everything. Some of the ones you guys deleted, it still shows up on my screen. I'm not running away from a conversation. I'm just not going to have an ugly conversation that just sucks the life out of the room. We're going to be professional. I'm going to talk to you in the same way I would talk to a customer that's in the store. And if, you know, if your job or your surroundings depended on what kind of decorum you use, the internet will be a different place. But I'm not hiding behind a keyboard. There's people in the store right now. There are customers in the store right now. There are customers that are watching. They walk in that door, the same conversation, sometimes with color language, sometimes not. We're going to have. Would I say something to you on a computer screen that I would say if you came right in this door? And the answer is no. And it's going to stay that way. So no, Chappie, I doubt I'll have a stream that does that, because I just think it adds to the misery. Next question.
Hold on just a second.
Let me know if you guys need anything. Don't mean to ignore you.
She's gonna get that.
Okay. Well, this is from the Once More with Feeling episode.
Yep, it's from one of my really good friends. She loves that show. Got me into it.
So this is 15 even.
2 to 20.
Cool. Stuff like that. I think I've got your change.
Mm-hmm. I can do card too if you don't.
Yeah, got it. There you go.
Yeah.
Let me get you back. You guys local or?
We're local.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
We've never been over here. Like this whole.
Shopping thing?
Yeah.
I'm going to be part of the.
Everything's so artsy.
Yeah, it's like old school. Here we go.
Thank you.
And here, take one of my cards. I got coupons, movie giveaways and stuff.
Awesome.
You can take some flash stuff if you want. at the end of that promotion. You can take one of each of those if you want.
Man, I have not seen this yet.
Yeah, I've seen it several times. It's a good movie.
Is it good?
I think
I would see it because I love Val Kilmer, but it's just all of the stuff about the main whoever plays anyway, he was in a whole bunch of like controversies, and I'm like, oh, was he?
You're actually the first, because for most of the people that we went through, barely knew who he was.
Everything I hear about him is like he like choked out some women. I think he attacked some people in stores, like all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, and then it kind of snowballed into like folklore too. So I think a lot of that, but it's a good movie.
Okay.
It's a good movie. It's a fun movie.
I think I'll watch it when it goes to like streaming. So I do love
It'll be there in 2 weeks. You'll have to wait.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's almost there. All right, William, Marvel has enough street cred when they jump to Supernatural MCU. Maybe you do Night Stalker show in 15 minutes. See you guys later. That's a weak spot for me. Those characters are not. I'm not well versed on those characters, so I still might do it because I would just have to learn. But yeah, be a while.
Dude, that might be. That might be a Sci-Fi Center Presents we do about the Night Stalkers and the Midnight Suns, because I know a lot about them.
Yeah,
so.
I would have to take the back seat on that one. Go ahead.
I was going to say, by the way, we just got, in real time on the show, William, again, this is maybe anecdotal, but it's again, somebody on camera talking about, Flash, we'll catch it on streaming. So.
Yeah. And they were actually some of the first people, because we've been handing out these posters and dealing. We sent over 400 some odd people to the movies to see this movie. They were the first ones that brought up the Ezra thing to that point. And she didn't even, if you notice, she didn't even know the guy. It's the guy. It's so ambiguous like that. But like I said, if we stop seeing movies because what skeletons people got in their closets, we made all.
Well, and actually, did you see? I think it was yesterday. Actually, that Ezra actually put out a statement on Instagram. It was about this one. It was one of the cases where that was dismissed and settled in court. And Ezra was commented, there was a smear campaign in some aspects of what's been reported, and apparently he was going to be commenting more about that. But I was wondering if you had seen that.
Yeah, I saw it. I kind of avoided it, so because once again, it's one of those things that there's not going to be any winners in this. How you felt about him going in was not going to change by evidence and things like that. Same thing with Jonathan Majors and all these other things. Like, listen, we aren't the court system. Yeah, we have court of public opinion, but at the same time, I'm not in the room where it happened. I'm not in the courtroom where it happened. I'm not the one with the evidence. I'm going to leave that up to the courts. If the courts decide a certain person needs to be incarcerated, guess what? I can't see that person's movies anymore because they're behind bars. But unless I'm on the jury, my judgment of this guy is going to come of his acting ability. Until I'm given evidence that he's a criminal and he goes away. That's just me.
Yeah, kind of the analogy, the joke I tell with Anthony Starr is that he kind of forgot he was playing Homelander for a minute there. In his kind of his controversy.
Yeah, that guy.
He did worse than anything Ezra has been as far as been accused of. So it's and that was that was wide out in the open. So and he's still Homelander.
Yeah. So yeah, I got an issue with that. Oh, all right.
Stella makes the point here: the law will prevail with Ezra Miller, love it or hate it.
And that goes with anybody of these guys. I am not going to, like I said, we have a system in place that holds these people accountable, and it's for that. I'm going to hold him accountable if his acting is bad. Then I just won't go see it. But as far as his other stuff goes, it's not. That's why I don't even bring it up. I'm not going to do the tabloid stuff. To be honest with you, it's just not.
The way I see it is, it's not my nevermind at this point. If we sat in the court of public opinion on all celebrities, we'd be here for years talking the same situation.
Turn sports off. Turn off every football game and every baseball game, and then we're going to do it that way. Just go ahead and turn it off, because there's far more prevalent in sporting world than it ever will be with these guys. All right, next one.
All right, got a couple more Superman Legacy questions here. Last question, but the one thing that worries me is that when Superman Legacy, and if it's great, there's probably going to be a lot of people saying this is the Superman movie we've been waiting for.
Yeah, they're always, and they're going to say that. Plug that in 30
I
years.
always say Man of Steel was the Superman movie I was waiting for, and a lot of other people did. I mean, it's like that's going to, and people will say that like Amazing Spider-Man 1 was the Spider-Man they were waiting for. I mean, it's you're talking about these iconic characters with that kind of history. I mean, you're going to inevitably have that reaction to varying degrees with every iteration of them.
And the point I made earlier in the show is divisiveness is not an excuse to do your job. All right. If you can't face that hurdle, then don't take that job.
Exactly.
Something being divisive is not an excuse. You focus on all these things are going to be, then don't make any of these characters that have literally grandparents as part of the generations that are still alive watch. You have people, in some cases, depending on if you're lucky enough to have your grandparents and great-grandparents alive, you got 4 generations of people who have a different view of this character. And at least half of those generations are going to go see them in the movie theaters. And you're not getting, for your first time out, you're always going to have half of your people that want it one way and the other. That's just retail. That's commerce. That is, if you look at Superman right now, if you got people who grew up in an era that wasn't Christopher Reeve, they're going to see Christopher Reeve as hokey, and they're not going to want to see that again. But if you grew up in that era and you see the Henry Cavill Superman, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Because from your point of view, that's not Superman. We are selfish in that thinking. And that's why, like I said, Superman Legacy is going to be divisive. There's no way around it. People aren't going to change their minds, and there's no wrong version of Superman. That's what makes the divisiveness permanent. Everybody's right version of Superman is not necessarily the wrong version of somebody else. It's just that's theirs. But we're not going to let that go immediately. We'll let it go once we see the movie. There's a lot of people that I saw that hated Cavill first out. Now, they're like, wow, why are we not getting more of him? It's going to take time. But that first, first one out of the gate, you're going to deal with some hate. And you have to understand that. You can't be stupid enough to think that you're going to make a Superman film and not have it be divisive. You just can't. There's no way. And I don't think there's anybody at Warner Brothers that's stupid anymore. Now, stockholders and shareholders, they don't care about any of that. They just want their money. But as far as narratively goes, they'll be fine as long as they stick to their guns. Yeah, I meant that as a pun. All right, next one.
Does Superman Legacy and the Brave and the Bold Batman movie in the same universe fit cinematically?
I don't know.
Maybe. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming at some point, some juncture, yes. But I don't know how. So I don't want to give you mislead you.
And then Stella says, hint, if you actually break the law and actually harm someone, the law will come after you, period. We are all innocent until proven guilty. And this is something we need to remember in the court of public opinion. We are all innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with the court of public opinion.
Yeah, it's only binding when just to screw people out of money. And depending on, like I said, we just don't know. We didn't know about John. There's still stuff coming out on Jonathan Majors. People were like, how can they have them? You know what? Marvel took their time and sat back and waited for the situation to unfold. And that's what you but sometimes you can't. Sometimes just the very implication of it means that you can't have that guy around. So I understand it from both ways. But as fans, I mean, we're I think the hypocrisy as far as going after Ezra Miller, when every time I got on the air, I pulled things out that were like nobody had a problem with. And like I said, as fans, we don't have to have a problem with that. Like I said, 2000 NBA Finals, Kobe Bryant is literally having to fly from Vail, Colorado to LA or Detroit while he's in the NBA Finals because he's dealing with a rape allegation. Think anybody in Staples Centers gave a rat's ass about that? None. Should they have? That's not up to us.
Well, one I always bring up is that Mike Tyson, he's managed to make a comeback. He's in The Hangover. He's in Ip Man 3. He's, color commentary on boxing fights. He's a convicted rapist. I mean, that's...
Yeah. And he may have been shafted, but yeah, still, we still, as a fan, you have the right to say, hey, Mike got shafted. I'm still with Mike. That's your right as a fan. But at the same time, you got to understand that someone else is going to think differently. It's in the public domain. It's just a matter of, I say leave it up to the professionals, leave it up to the legal system, leave it up to the judge, the jury, the appellate courts, all those things. I'm going to see a movie. So, all right, next one.
That's it. We are caught up on questions.
All right, guys. I went 13 minutes past where I was going to go. I really need to get out of here, get some food, get out of this heat, get home, get the air conditioner on. So next week we will see you at the Sci-Fi Center's channel, youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center. I will go ahead and I think we've already put it in the link a couple of times, but we're going to do it one more time so that when you're watching this, you can just click on it. Because like I said, many of you end up watching our streams long after the streams have aired. I still got people watching streams that, for the first time and commenting on them from weeks ago. And, so there you go. So next week this show will be exclusively on that show. But once again, if you're on the Poindexter 9, you're going to get plenty of me. But yeah, we just think it's right now. We need to find out where we are at with that channel and see what we can do to make an extension of my storefront. And so that first step is going to be next week. So, all right. Any last words, gentlemen?
No, I think just everybody just have a safe and happy 4th of July weekend coming up here.
Yeah, don't blow yourself. Don't blow your fingers off. Don't burn your neighbor's house down. And be wary. I know you think, I don't care about those guys. If you've ever been in the combat and you've heard gunfire and explosions, this is a tough time for vets. And your dogs. Your dogs are going to be having options.
My dogs, yeah, big time. I've had every dog I've had.
I have CBD treats for my dog, and I had to actually give him treats the last 2 days because he's been freaked out here. So,
so there you go. Everybody have a safe, body damaging. Don't do the fire. Listen, if you're high, it's legal in a lot of states. If you're drunk, it's legal to be drunk if you're over 21. But if you got the Roman candle and you got a beer in one hand, one of them's got to go down. You got to pull one down. All right? Partake in all the madness and the plants and the beer and everything you want to. But if it's in one hand, if you're smoking, if you're doing a drag on that thing and you got something in your hand, please pay attention to that other thing. One of them's going to blow up. One of the things you lit could blow up and you caught your hand. So please be careful.
Just don't do like Homer Simpson does when he gets that giant stick of dynamite and throw it in tries to put in the fridge. No, the beer, and then puts it in the dishwasher.
Yeah, because cartoons don't die. Cartoons only lose their fingers for a frame or so. Humans, not the same. All right, guys, we'll see you later.